Hello, my name's Fred. I'm with Prime USA Scales, and today I want to cover a topic talking about the 5 best types of scales to use for weighing super sacks. Now, super sacks are these large industrial tote bags that are used to transport material from one location to another. These tote bags are typically 35 inches square and they're about 45 inches tall. So the most common type of scale that you'd want to use for weighing these big, large tote bags would be either a floor scale, pallet jack scale, a forklift scale, crane scale, or an outdoor scale where it would be left outdoors and get wet and washed down safe. So I'm going to cover these topics and we'll figure out which one works best for you. Before I go in and talking about which one is the best option for you, the most important thing that you need to know is that not all scales are legal for trade. What do I mean by that? If you're buying or selling off a scale based on weight, by law, you're required to have what's called an NTEP approved scale. That stands for the National Type Evaluation Program. So keep in mind that if you're buying or selling based on weight, we suggest that you buy a legal for trade scale so that you can conform to the laws of weights and measures. Number 1 is the floor scale pallet scale. This is the most common type of scale that you'll see being used for weighing totes. So typically what you'd want to do is take your forklift and pick up the tote and then set it down on top of the floor scale to get a weight. Our floor scales come in a variety of sizes. The most common size that would work best for totes would either be a 40-inch square deck, a 4 foot by 4 foot, or a 5 by 5 if you have a super sack, which is even larger than the standard 35-inch square base. So a floor scale comes in a variety of capacities. They will range from as small as 1,000 pounds and up to as much as 10,000 pounds is the standard, and even bigger if needed in those extreme conditions. Now, the floor scales do come in scales that are legal for trade to use for buying or selling based on weight, and we do have options to fit them with printers, scoreboards, software, and also make them outdoor and wash down safe if needed. So a floor scale is a great economical solution. It's one of the most common ways to weigh these super sacks. Number 2 is a pallet jack with a built-in scale. So this is also a very common option that's very easy to use, and this is actually much better in a situation where you may not have a forklift to take your tote bag and set it down onto a floor scale. So with the pallet jack scale, all you'd want to do is have your tote bag sitting on top of a pallet and take your pallet jack scale and slide your forks underneath, pump it up off the ground, and then you would get a weight. So this is a very convenient and easy option that won't take up a lot of space in your warehouse. It can be utilized as a pallet jack, and then it also does come in legal for trade options as well. Now, the standard capacity on a pallet jack scale is a 5,000 pound capacity. So you are limited there in that sense that is your max capacity. There's not a smaller capacity or a larger option. You're stuck with that capacity. So if you need something more accurate or something with a higher capacity, the floor scale is going to be a better fit. But in terms of making it very easy to use and having lots of different ways to use the pallet jack scale, that's where it'd be a good fit if you don't have a forklift as well. Option 2. The third option is a forklift scale. Now, this is the best option, but it is the most expensive, which makes it great if you're going to be in an industry where you're using it on a day-to-day basis and throughout the day. This is where you're going to be able to utilize that cost in order to justify buying a forklift scale. So the forks basically have a scale apparatus built into them so that as you go and slide and pick up your super sack or pick up the pallet, you'd automatically get a weight readout right there in front of the digital display for the driver to see the weight. So this is a great option. It's very simple to use. You can easily install in 5 minutes. The only hard part about this type of scale is that you have to justify the cost. Other than that, it's a very straightforward scale, and I highly recommend it to a business that can utilize it and justify that cost because it is very simple, very easy to use. And they do also come in legal for trade options as well. That is option number 3. Number 4 is our crane scale. The crane scale is a great cost-effective solution, and the difference here between some of the other models is that it works in a hanging apparatus. So it's a hanging scale. In order to get that way, you have to pull and make tension. So where you can use this is typically on your forklift if it has a boom that you can hang the crane from and then pull down to get the weight of the sack. Or if you also have like a lift or some other type of crane that you can utilize to use the crane scale with. The crane scale comes in legal for trade options. It also comes in wash down options if it's being used outdoors in all types of weather conditions. But the crane scale can be a very cost-effective solution. And that means if you're not going to use it to buy or sell based on weight, and it's going to be typically used for internal purposes or for your own weight, then in that case, you can go with a non-certified and you'll save yourself a lot of money going that direction. So if you are looking for a cost-effective solution just to get going, I highly recommend the crane scale because out of the other 3 options, it will be your most cost-effective option, and that's number 4. Number 5 is covering a variety of different applications that could be used for wash down applications. So sometimes these tote bags are being used out in fields, or they're being used on a farm, or they're being just used outdoors in general. And sometimes we get in those conditions where they're muddy, they're water, it's raining, maybe snow. So we need to consider a wash down option in those situations. So if you find that you're going to be working in those type of elements, it's a great idea to buy a wash down scale. Wash down scales could be floor scales, pallet jack scales, forklift scales, crane scales. So all these options can be legal for trade, they can be washed down, and if you're gonna be using them outdoors and you expect those type of elements, I highly recommend going with a wash down safe scale. That's number 5. Thank you for watching. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Subscribe to our channel because we're posting constantly and putting out lots of free information about scales. If you have some questions or would like to ask me some personal questions about scales, I'd be more than happy to take your call and speak with you directly. My name is Fred. Our direct line is 800-917-7205. Our email is sales@primeusascales.com. Thank you for watching. We'll see you guys again soon.